3, 2, 1. This is Own the Block Podcast, and these are your hosts, Josh Derriman and Pierce Burton.
Welcome to episode 3 of the Own the Block Podcast. Today we got a special guest, Thomas Zettergren. He works for REI Nation, and I believe he also has his real estate license. He's starting to dabble into owning some of his own rental properties. So Taz, why don't you give us a quick summary about you and kind of what you've been seeing in the market today?
Yeah, for sure. So I work up at REI Nation, a turnkey company based out of Memphis, in about 12 different markets here in the southern middle part of the country. Strictly specialize in single family homes in the suburbs, not doing much inner city, downtown. Price points are going to be anywhere in the 200 to 300K range. That's been the sweet spot for us. Company's been around for 18, going on 19 years now. I've been with them 6 years. They've kind of worked my way through the company, I guess you could say. Started out at front desk of property management. Spent about 2 years in the management side and then moved into our rehab department. So whenever we go to purchase properties, I would be the guy that tells the company, hey, it's going to cost X amount to fix this house up. And then whenever we bought the house, I would go in and make the list of what we're going to do to every single room to the house. And I would hand that to a project manager, and they would actually sub out the work. I was in that role for about 7 months, and then after that, they moved me into the sales department. Kind of got two different tiers of the sales department. What we call them is a setter and a closer, essentially. So setters work with new clients coming in, just vetting them, educating them on our process. And then once they get pre-qualified and they're ready to roll, they get set up with a closer. And just identifying the right property for each investor's goals. So a lot of mixing and matching, and just giving people what they're looking for.
So with your guys' company, how are you guys sourcing those deals? First of all, is it mainly like wholesalers, or how are you guys getting the properties to be able to be rehabbed?
Yeah, mixed bag. So everything's very systematic. We kind of focus on each department, focusing on minor things. So we've got a buying department. We've got, 3 buyers in Memphis, 3 or 4 in Dallas. So those are our 2 brick and mortar offices. We'll buy them any way we can get them. Wholesalers, we buy them off the MLS. Literally any and every way possible.
So when you were on the construction management side, how are you determining those prices? Are you doing that yourself, or are you having a contractor go in and kind of give you guys an estimate of those prices?
Yeah, really we've got a cheat sheet, I guess you could say. Being in the industry for as long as we have, obviously we've had to evolve with it, but what we've come to find out is, kind of pricing of what most stuff will cost on the front end. So, able to do that without a contractor. So luckily I was able to get in and do it pretty efficiently in a quick amount of time. I'd spend 25 minutes at each house, walking the interior and exterior, kind of give a estimate of what I thought the rehab would look like. And then I'd send that to our buying department, and then they'd run all the back end numbers as far as, what we'd be able to offer and whatnot. And then they do their job as far as negotiating.
And is your rehab team internal in terms of everybody works for the company, or are you guys outsourcing that rehab?
Yeah, so we've got project managers. They pretty much act as GCs. So they're in charge of hiring their own contractors. We're subbing out all the stuff. We're not swinging a hammer and a nail. So they've got electricians, roofers, plumbers, cosmetic guys, everything top to bottom.
Yeah, and once you scale up to a certain level, it becomes a lot easier. So for me, with my rehab stuff, I'm now to a point where I have a contractor with about 10 to 15 guys that he only works for me right now. And so it becomes a lot easier to get jobs done at that point once you're scaling up to where REI Nation is, or where I am, because you're not having to find guys to do one-off jobs, which it's really hard to find contractors in the current environment that aren't booked out for months.
and finding people you can trust and just rely on is a tough deal. So whenever we go to new markets, that's one of the things that, takes us some time. We'll announce we're going into a new market, and there's some lag time behind that because we're having to, filter in, interview a lot of contractors. A lot of it's trial and error, getting them on a job, paying them to do something. Obviously we've had people walk off, without doing stuff, several different scenarios that come about it. But that entry point as far as finding the right crew with the right pricing that you can trust and does good work is takes some time to do.
I remember that exact issue when I was flipping houses. You could really extend your period depending on the contractor you used, and having the right contractors and developing the right relationships takes time and is a big deal. But Taz, I'm curious, what is the benefit for an investor to use a turnkey company versus going out on their own and finding properties?
For sure. I mean, it's people you can trust and rely on. For us, obviously the market shifted, so we've had to shift with it. But we hold properties until they're rented now. So that way when a client closes on them, it's, reduces the risk of vacancy right off the bat, but it also boosts their cash flow. It's just something that's already generating income. But people who don't have time to, weed out contractors, work with property management, things of that nature, with us handling everything here in-house, very seamless investment, one-stop shop type deal. So with us, it's really all about the experience. Like I said earlier, we've been in it about 19 years. We've done this thing several different ways. Obviously, I haven't been around, the full 19 years, but when we very first started, we weren't doing a ton on the renovation side, and we were operating in a lower price point type area. It looks great on paper, but as far as the experience on the back end, it's a little different story. So kind of going down a rabbit hole here, our owner was a wholesaler for groceries. He retired from that. Kent Clothier Sr., if you know the man, he's a workaholic. That's what he loves to do, is just work. So he retired for, may have made it 6 months. And then he started flipping properties to FedEx pallets. So these FedEx pallets got really frustrated with their property management, and they talked him into starting a property management company. And once he did that, he figured out the frustration. It was the clientele that he was working with on the back end. You were dealing with people who were not fulfilling leases, weren't paying on time, just several different things. So we've had to evolve, or the company has evolved, focusing on looking at better areas, but it really comes back to renovations, work you're doing on the front end. If you provide a product that, resident doesn't have to call in for maintenance, and if they do, they get a high level of service, at the end of the day, that resident's gold. I mean, that's who's paying the note for you. That's how you're making your money on the back end. So the better you treat them, the better the investment's going to be. So it's an experience deal, not only for the resident, but it works out for that owner as well. But long story short, very simple way to get into real estate, very easy to diversify into different markets, and, trust thing.
Yeah, so Taz, I've done a lot of loans for clients who are looking to buy turnkey properties, and they ask me, what's the benefit of me going with one, or should I just go out and buy one on my own? And most of these people are out-of-state investors. They're buying in a market that they may have never even been to before. So why don't you touch on what a turnkey company is and how it can really help, especially the new investor, to learn about out-of-state real estate investing and maybe a market that they're particularly interested in.
A true turnkey provider is going to be a company that provides a property that's been completely renovated. They're going to have a resident set up, ready to go, and that company is going to own the property management company on the back end. So it will truly be a one-stop shop type deal. There's several people out there that kind of are referral sources. That wouldn't be a true turnkey company. With us, you're going to be married with us through the longevity of the investment. So our interests are obviously going to have to be mutually aligned there.
So Pierce and I have a client right now, and he's going through his first investment property purchase. And he's a good example. What he did is he purchased a property, he found a contractor, made the repairs to the property, really struggled with it. And then once he got it completed, he went to go rent the property, but it turns out that he couldn't rent the property because he didn't do all the necessary things for that municipality. So he had to hire another contractor, get it there, and 7-8 months later, he still doesn't have the property rented. And that's a good example as a first-time investor. The benefit of going with a turnkey company is you get in there, oftentimes you may already have a renter into that property, and it's as they say, turnkey, it's taken care of for you. So it's a good initial start into the business.
Yep, saves you a lot of time, a lot of effort, which in results saves you money most of the time. So it reduces the risk for a lot of people coming into it who don't have experience, like you said.
So Taz, what is the change in your marketplace 12 months ago versus today? What are you seeing that's different? Who's coming to you? Are you having problems finding properties? Fill us in.
Yeah, market shifted a lot. Obviously, interest rates have gone up, so it makes things tighter from a monthly standpoint. We meet with our buying department about once a week, just kind of touching base on conditions. From what they're telling us, there's a lot of wholesalers out there that have shut off their advertising because of the lack of being able to make a deal with sellers. So it is tough to source deals, but they're still out there. We're still churning through around 70 properties a month are rolling through on our end as far as closings go, 60 to 70. So it's shifted. Obviously, you got to be able to shift with it. Luckily, we're a large enough company where, like I said, we own the front and the back end of the process. So we've got 7,500 properties under management. So we're able to offer different types of incentives to help overcome some of that stuff. Like right now, we got a deal going until the end of the year. We're calling it 2 for 22. So we're offering a 2% closing credit on the front end, which is helping buyers obviously buy that rate down. So that'll help the numbers initially, but then we're also offering a 2% management fee for 2 years. So simply trying to help bridge the gap. As we all know, Fed's pretty much pushing us into a point where we're eventually going to go into a recession or, whatever they're calling it nowadays. The rates are going to be coming down in the next 2 to 4 years. So we're trying to help bridge the gap, get people into the property that matches what they're looking for long term. At the end of the day, it's, date the rate, marry the property. So a lot of great opportunities are still out there.
Yeah, and we were talking about that last podcast, me and Josh, basically about how you have to tailor whatever your model is in real estate to whatever that current market is. And so, a lot of investors out there just looking for cash on cash return or ROI, and they're looking at it in just a micro view of what the current market is, which can't be the approach today, or you're going to lose every time. But what you can find out there more in this market, because there is a lot of scared money, is some stuff selling at a deeper discount than it would be. And also house flippers and that sort of thing are not doing as skinny of deals because they're scared. And so a lot of people have just shut that area of their business off completely. So there is more opportunity in certain sectors of the real estate market than there was 6 to 12 months ago.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, a lot of people, obviously I'm on the phone all day. That's what I do is talk on the phone. But, there's a lot of people predicting this large drop in prices coming. There are certainly going to be areas that are seeing downward pressure, with what rates are doing and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it comes down to supply and demand. A lot of people get tired of hearing it, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, we're at a shortage of single family homes still. There's a lot of people out there that, say since 08 and 09, there's several different amounts of homes. People are saying we're behind, but what I've come to find out, it's anywhere between 3 to 5 million. You can use the high end, low end, middle part. Whatever you want to use, there's still a lot of homes to be behind, the last decade. So, that's going to hold prices pretty firm. And, it really comes back to the price points you're in. Not places that we're operating, this under 300K price range, that's such a limited amount of supply that's out there on the open market. I mean, in today's times, how many brand new homes do you see being built that are under 300K, in the southern middle part of the country?
Well, you can't build them. You cannot build a house for $300,000 today. I mean, maybe if it's under 1,200 square feet, but the average home size in the U.S., I think, in the last 30 years went from 1,100 square feet to 1,700. People don't want to live in that smaller home anymore, like they did maybe 30 years ago. So you can't build a 1,700 square foot home for 300,000. It's just not possible. So with the rates going up, what have you seen with? And I know you're not on the management side anymore, but I know you can see the rents going up. What have you seen with rents raising due to a lot of those first-time home buyers no longer being able to buy, and so they're forced to rent? So it's probably bringing rents up. Is that what you're seeing, and what percentage is that?
Yep, it's definitely helped the rental numbers. I don't have the exact data in front of me as far as the percentages go, but we've seen an influx in that. Time on market's another thing. Certainly, this time of year it does tend to slow down a little bit around the holidays, but in these price points that we're in, there's just so much demand for that rental product. A lot of people priced out, just like you mentioned, about those interest rates going up. So a lot of people coming in wanting to do 1-year leases. Kind of part of our management strategy is we start each resident out with a 2-year contract, and we get a $50 bump in rent on that second year of the 2-year contract. So some negotiating going on our end for those people coming in to rent, wanting to do a 1-year deal with the thought process of purchasing a home, after that 1-year contract. So, there's some instances where, we might do a 12-month lease or an 18-month lease, depending on that candidate, that applicant. Very situational based, but yeah, to your point, rents have gone up, continue to go up. Now they're going to cool down. Obviously, the 10 to 12% rent increases we've been seeing, over the last 2 to 3 years, that's going to cool down to a point.
If you're an investor right now, what would be your top 3 metropolitan cities that you think you should be looking at?
Yeah, it really depends what you're looking for as far as long-term goals go. I work with a lot of clients that have a high net worth. So for them, I advise Texas just because of the growth aspect. Most of those clients aren't going to need the cash flow per se. Just more focused on future potential, the equity growth there, and then leveraging that again down the road. But we've had a lot of clients be a little more active with that. But I would say Texas market for sure. Memphis, Tennessee is a great area, and Oklahoma has been a great market for us in the past 5 years that we've been there. They're capturing a lot of the growth from the Texas market, but the property taxes aren't as stout, so that cash flow is able to be a little bit better there. So it's a little bit of a hybrid play, kind of between the cash flow and a equity growth type deal.
Yeah, in Dallas, you have to be. Every investor has to be taking a loss right now, right? On like it has to be negative cash flow, right? I can't see how it with current rates and with where property taxes are there. It's a long-term equity play. Totally, right?
Yeah, we've got some that are still kind of breaking even with some of the incentives that we're offering, but for the most part, majority of those would be paying in, $100 or so a month to own the property.
So talk a little bit about your own investing stuff. I know you're getting started with, you got 4 rentals, and or you said it's about to be 4, right? You got 2 right now, and then you're living in a place that you're going to turn into a rental. I've actually stayed right up that staircase before one time. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually house hacked the property that I'm currently in. So I had 3 other roommates in the old property. We rented from actually our owner here in Germantown. We all worked at REI Nation, oddly enough, and our lease was coming to expire. And I've always been pretty cognizant, I guess you could say, of how to earn a dollar. So I just looked at everybody. I was like, man, if I bought a house, would y'all just rent for me? And this is before, I hate to say it, I wasn't very active on Bigger Pockets or, very many real estate investment sites. I was still very early on in that process. I was in the management company at that time, so I hadn't even gotten into sales yet. So I was still very green as far as investing goes on real estate and whatnot. So the official term's house hacking. I found that one out a little later on down the road, but I bought this house. I ended up putting quite a bit of money into it, almost 6 figures, but we tore out some walls, moved some sinks, a lot of kitchen, full redo, but had 3 guys renting from me. And then about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, My aunt was going to sell her property in Olive Branch, Mississippi. House was built in '06. She had just put a brand new roof on it. Just a great opportunity that she asked me if I would sell it for her. And I said, well, I'd be happy to, but I'd rather buy it. And she said, that'd be fine. So we agreed to a price and made that work. So that was step one, back when rates were 3.3 on a 20-year deal, and ended up being fortunate enough to rent to a doctor. So I had a man that's driving about 45 minutes to work each day, but I wanted to live in Olive Branch. So I got very fortunate to get him in that property. And then kind of how it grew from there in March of this year, March of 22, I purchased 2 properties, one in South Haven. It was from an investor with REI Nation, was actually selling their property. Very similar scenario. We were getting ready to list it, and opportunity came up, and I purchased that one from her directly, and then I bought a property through the company, REI Nation, in Fort Worth. So saw what a lot of our investors had made over the years in that Texas market, so wanted to get some diversity in my portfolio and get one in Texas. So that got me to 3, and I will be closing on a new primary here in 7 days. So I'm moving back to North Mississippi. I've got a child on the way. The wife is pregnant, due in May. So I'm seeking some cheaper health care, or not health care, child care, excuse me. So we got the grandparents back that way. So I want to get a little closer, a little easier commute for them and for us. So I'm going to turn this property into a rental and make number 4.
Well, congratulations on that. Congratulations on the upcoming child. Pierce is working on that as well, right?
No, definitely not. And let's call that house what it was. It was a construction site that he just happened to have a frat house at. I came in that house. The walls were torn down, and so the only people he could have gotten to live in that place were his three buddies.
Man, so fortunate looking back on it. So fortunate. I gave, we had a good deal going. That they got, very good price for a good area.
Yeah.
But no, so I'm all on the single family space. Kind of hearing Pierce's story. Obviously, me and Pierce are buddies. Talk a decent amount. Kind of interested in getting the multi-space. I would definitely need, some of his guidance as that time comes. But that's, kind of wouldn't mind dabbling into that, a little diversity into the real estate portfolio of mine.
So it surprises me that you guys at REI Nation aren't having more difficulty finding properties. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Has the mix changed of how you're finding properties?
But as far as just, how we're getting addresses and whatnot, I mean, agents, wholesalers, I mean, it's a big trickle effect, honestly. Wholesalers got connections to people all around the city, and, more wholesalers you get in contact with, more opportunities you come across. And, obviously we're in 12 different markets. So, that starts to snowball as that goes.
We see a lot of investors, they'll buy a property and they don't take into account that when you buy a property, you're going to have to go in and spend $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 to put it in a good enough rental condition. You'll have plumbing issues, electrical issues, things that you didn't realize when you were doing your due diligence. And buying a property through a turnkey company takes that out of the equation.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's where our value comes in for sure. So, I mean, coming into it, we guarantee 0 maintenance in the first year with our product, just simply backing the renovation that we do, kind of stamping our brand, I guess you could say, on that. Give some people some certainty, especially new clients coming into it. Obviously there's a trust factor. People have never met us, shaking our hands, seen us in person, or seen our product in person. So that's something we do to just kind of help ease the mind. But going into these, about 75-80% of the time, we'll replace all the big ticket items on these properties coming in. So, I mean, we're addressing roof, HVAC, water heater, all your electrical outlets, plumbing fixtures, obviously cosmetics. So just minimizing that maintenance. What we found is most of our clients are going to hold these properties for at least 8 to 10 years. So if we can make that, a very seamless investment, obviously that'll help the experience for them. And in a roundabout way, we've come to find out that that helps the performance of our property management company exponentially. So we've been doing this way for about a decade now. Like I said, managing about 7,500 homes. We've got an average length of stay that's coming up on 7 years across the entire portfolio. So we're very fortunate enough to do a good job of keeping residents in the property while incrementally increasing the rents along the way. Coming into it, it's not until year 5 that our clients will see about 2.5% maintenance on the build rents. So it's, it all starts with the renovations.
So have you found that professionally you were at a disadvantage by going to Ole Miss?
Not at all. If anybody's been to Oxford, Mississippi, it'll flip the script 100%.
So Josh likes to make fun of how much I bring up Ole Miss.
Never been to the Harvard of the South, have they?
That's what they call it. That's what they call it, the Harvard of the South.
Who calls it that?
That's what it's named. And
That is what it is.
Taz, did you have any questions for Josh or I?
Yeah, I guess tell me a little bit about how y'all are going about it. As far as your multifamily portfolio, Pierce, I know a little bit about yours. Josh, what kind of portfolio do you have, and what drove you to that route of investing?
Well, I don't actually have a portfolio right now. I used to flip properties quite a bit, and I've been out for a while, actually looking to move out of California to start my portfolio again. California is a really, really rough state for property investing.
Yeah, I've got a lot of clients. I would say, hate to put a number on it, 40, maybe 50% of my clients are from the California area. Very similar, obviously out of state, a little more advantageous, and a lot of that comes from just the management rules. It's a little more tenant friendly over there. So I've heard some fair share of horror stories.
Yeah, California's tough if you are a landowner or if you're a landlord. It's very tenant friendly. We actually had a tenant at one point in time. They were able to stay in the property for almost 18 months without paying. They had our suit to remove them taken to federal court. We had to go through all kinds of nonsense, and that's the sort of stuff that you run into in California. So it's a tougher place for any number of reasons, but the tenant landlord rules are pretty brutal compared to some other states.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh on the podcast last week was like, one of the first things I want to do is meet the tenants that I'm inheriting in the property. And I was like, that's the last thing I want to do, because in California, you're basically you got to date the tenants once they're in there.
You absolutely are dating the tenants. We've had properties where we foreclosed on them or purchased at foreclosure, and you meet the tenants and right away they're going to steal every single thing, toilet, the air conditioner, everything. And so you make decisions based on that. And then there's other ones where, the homeowner that you foreclosed on, you end up renting back to them. But it can be a very expensive process in California.
Yeah, and squatters are a huge problem. When I bought my primary residence, actually Josh did the loan on it. Very first property I ever bought, only property I ever bought in California. That I had an ADU in the back, and me and the realtor go over there just to kind of do a walkthrough of the property. I was under contract at this point, and we open the ADU door, and we're like, somebody's been living here. There's like trash everywhere. There's he had been shaven, so there was beard all over the sink, all kinds of stuff. And so we found and so he had used like a screwdriver to pop the window open. So we just took a board and made it so that he couldn't get back in that window. But he had been living in there for God knows how long, and that's rampant in California for sure.
It's been a while since I've heard any of those stories, but I've had clients where people would move into an investment property that was empty, start getting mail, and then you have to evict them. You don't have to have, there's no lease. As long as they get mail and they can prove that they're living there, you have to evict them.
That is wild. And then they're in there for what, 6 or 8 months? Is that
Maybe more.
Yeah.
Maybe more. So yeah, with you were asking about my portfolio. So I started buying investment properties in 2017, and now I'm up over, I think, about 200 properties, and that's a mix of single family homes all the way up to, I think my biggest apartment complex is 32 units. And I was talking earlier about how I have a construction team now, so we're doing a lot tougher rehabs now than I was doing previously. I'm rehabbing that 32 unit apartment complex starting in about a month. We're getting all this tenants out there, and we're just going to fully gut the property. And so that's going to be about a $400,000 rehab. And then I'm redoing a 12 unit right now. That's about a $375,000 rehab. And so, starting to take some more risks with rehabs, which, leads to bigger profits. Just finished a 12 unit rehab, picked up this 12 unit for only $137,000, and ended up costing me about $380 to rehab, so about 520 or something like that, 510, and it just appraised at $1,030,000. So that was a really good turn there. And that other 12 unit that I'm doing is basically almost the exact same type of building, similar numbers. So as you start to scale up your portfolio, you can start to take more risks like that.
Yeah, for sure. As you build, you got more stuff to lean on, and you can get riskier with that. What's your hold time looking like on those? I mean, do you plan on holding those long term? You plan on selling them in the next 3 to 5 years? What's your game plan?
I don't want to really sell anything. I think as long as you're buying cash flowing properties, you're better off just holding for all the tax incentives you have for holding. Obviously you can cash out, refinance without having to pay any capital gains or do any 1031s, anything like that. I think the only properties that I would potentially get out of is single family homes. As you were talking earlier about a single family home shortage. And so as the equity starts to build in those single family homes, you can sell those and then 1031 into a larger apartment complex. I mean, if you got like you talk about the Dallas market, I'm sure some of those people that bought three years ago might have $300,000 in equity. Well, you can 1031 that $300,000 in equity into an apartment complex worth 1.2 or 1.5, a smaller apartment complex. And so, and that's going to give you a higher efficiency of cash flow and all of that sort of thing. So, but in terms of the multifamily, I like the long-term hold, and you can always add value a lot quicker to those by raising rents and improving the property than with 1 to 4 units. You're really subject to what stuff is selling for in that current market.
Yeah, definitely. So when you're going into these deals, I mean, is it your standard 20, 25% down as far as down payment goes? What's the front end look like for you?
Yeah, so everything's 20, 25% down that I'm doing on the deals, but everything is basically from previous deals, cash out refis. So basically, I'm not doing any deals right now that I don't think I'm all in for under. I really want to be under 65% LTV once I'm all in, but if I can find a deal that's 70, I'll do that as well. And so basically, it's just constant recycling and profit of rehabs and that sort of thing. And I'm really just breaking even on the cash flow still because I'm in such an aggressive build phase. And so that cash flow is going right back into the property. I have a lot of properties vacant. Of that 200, I probably have, maybe 50 under rehab or just finished rehab. So obviously that those cash flow numbers aren't that good, but as long as I'm breaking even and I'm still in that build phase, really functioning just purely off of that cash out refinance money, to be able to fund purchases and rehabs.
Yeah, growing the doors, breaking even on cash flow. I mean, it'll all catch up.
So Taz, earlier this year, and for the about 4 months prior, we had some very good interest rates, which really helped with cash flow. Now that interest rates have gone up, cash flow's tightened on these investment properties. I think we're going to see some rates in the 5s for investment properties, maybe high 4s in the next 6 to 12 months. I think you had mentioned you were thinking maybe 2 to 4 years from now. What is your prediction? How are you coming up with that for your 2 to 4 year time frame?
Yeah, more just a safer bet, I guess you could say. I mean, I definitely think from what we're seeing and kind of hearing out there, a lot of people are saying rates are likely to come down next summer. Chairman Powell's been pretty hawkish on his phrasing here recently, so kind of up in the air. But I mean, we've seen last 3 to 4 weeks rates have actually gone down. They're more closely tied to the Treasury bond, as compared to the actual Fed rate. So we've actually had some clients locking in some high 5s with some additional points, going in on the front end. So I definitely see next summer, whether it be the early or middle part of the summer, we'll see some more relief in that regard.
So with the interest rates, from our mortgage perspective, I'm having a lot of clients call me and do some inquiring about where rates are, but then they'll go, I'm going to wait until rates come back down. How many of those type of tire kickers are you getting and seeing from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few that come across just because I'm talking to so many people in a day and a week. So you're going to have your handful of scenarios, people going that route. And a lot of people say, look, I'm, waiting on prices to drop, this dip in prices to come. And I'm just kind of take a step back and say, well, if prices were to go down X amount, that would cause interest rates would have to go up and stay up to cause that house price to come down. So by the time you got into a property that's cheaper with a higher rate, your monthly payment would actually be more expensive. Therefore, your numbers would be worse compared to going ahead and locking in now, having a resident pay down the note for you, having rents, giving rents time to increase throughout that stay, and then refi down the road. It makes more sense financially once you pencil it out on paper compared to waiting, in hopes of prices going down with the likelihood of rates, maybe going up in the meantime.
Sure, and the caveat to that is if rates come down, then all these people are going to jump in on buying, and you just missed out on maybe $50,000 in equity. So I'd rather make a extra $200, $300 a month payment bet for that increase, even if it doesn't happen for 2 years, like you say. And what's $200 extra over 2 years? That's $4,800 to maybe make 50 grand in appreciation, that sort of thing. I'd rather bet on that and just continue to buy. And I'm of the belief that you buy the whole time. It's like, kind of Warren Buffett says he just continues to buy all the time in the stock market, and over time you're going to win.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's you got to stay invested. It's not time in the market. It's time in the market, as we've all heard.
I've been doing this for about 20 years, and I have people that I can remember from 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that never have purchased a home because they're constantly waiting for some fictional leg down that is going to create the opportunity, and they miss out. And so the idea that you're trying to time the market is really, really tough. And so if you're doing what Pierce is talking about, where you're just buying all the way through, you kind of, for lack of a better term, dollar cost average your purchase. And so some you're going to buy lower, some you're going to buy higher. You're going to have a mix of interest rates, mix of costs, but you need to get into the market.
For sure. And the time like we're in right now is great. I mean, that's, y'all just heard me say I bought a new primary. Everything's cooled down, so you can be more selective on what you're looking for. Yeah, we were looking for a new primary 2 years ago. I mean, I put in 3-4 different offers of 40 to 50K over ask price, offering to pay 10K over appraisal value, and lost out all 4 times. So it turned out to be, rather fortunate for me. We're able to find a house that was more suited for us that we liked. And, you can always refi down the line. So,
yeah, so one thing I was just going to say is in this current market, especially on investment properties, when you're buying, right now you can get closing cost credits in every deal when previously with 5-10 offers, you ask for closing cost credit, they throw it out the window. Well, that closing cost credit is going to highly increase your ROI because your cash out of pocket is going to be considerably less if you're asking for 5-10K in closing cost credits. And so people don't factor those type of things into the current environment versus like a low interest rate environment. Yeah. So Taz, you're an avid outdoorsman. First of all, what kind of stuff are you hunting? And what's your best hunting story?
Tough one to answer there. I just enjoy being out of the concrete jungle. So I'm living up in Memphis now, in Germantown, which is not as big of a city as y'all are from. So y'all are used to a little more of the city life. So I'm from small town, North Mississippi. It's actually halfway between Memphis and Oxford, but had a population of probably 8, maybe 9,000. So very, semi-rural area, but we're only about an hour from the Mississippi Delta. You can cross the river and be in Arkansas in an hour and a half. So I enjoy duck hunting, deer hunting, turkey hunting. Really just enjoy being outdoors. We came out to LA, I guess it's been 2 or 3 months ago for the Bigger Pockets conference. It was actually in San Diego, but my wife flew out and we went up to LA and hiked up to the Hollywood sign and enjoyed that. It doesn't have to be hunting. It can just be outdoors. I enjoy it.
Yeah, a block, one square block in Los Angeles has a bigger homeless population than Senatobia, Mississippi.
For sure. There were some straight up camps that we saw in those areas that was very mind blowing for a small town kid like myself.
Thank you for joining the Own the Block podcast. Thank you to all our listeners, and thank you for being on, Taz. We're going to have Paul Jones on the podcast next week. He is an expert in non-QM lending strategy. And for anyone who wants to contact Taz, we're going to put his contact info below. And you can reach out to him with any questions you may have, or if you're interested in buying a turnkey investment property. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.